lovely to have you here, wherever you're joining from. I'm going to do 2 cards for you today, but they're both fundamentally the same design. First of all, there's two different stamp sets and bundles here, and I'm going to explore both of them. The one on my right is the beautiful poinsettia dies and the poinsettia stamp set, which is lovely, but it's also available at the moment. So if you see this card and want to make it today, you can do that with current products. This one on my left is the new stamp set from new bundle from the upcoming July to December, or it used to call the mini catalogue, the Christmas catalogue release. And sorry, I'm trying to get it at the same time. It's the Merriest Moments bundle, and the reason I really like this one is because it comes with their hybrid embossing folder, which is new to Stampin' Up, and I think it's absolutely the best idea ever, which basically, and I'll show it for you in a minute. So the dies are there, but they also come in with this embossing folder, and you can actually put one of the dies into the embossing folder and cut and emboss at the same time with one pass through your die cutting machine. And when you do, you get this absolutely cutest little, and I'm just trying to get it in the right light so you can see all the nice embossing, cutest little frame with all your little flower, what has it got? It's got sort of holly and all those sorts of Christmassy plants around the outside, so it's really nice for colouring and just using as a background. So anyway, as I say, I'll be using that one in the second card. But if you can't wait till this goes live to customers on the 3rd of August, we've got this poinsettia version on the right that we can do straight away. I can see a couple of people jumping on. Thanks, guys. We've got Teresa has reached out. Hi from Oregon. And Barb. Good morning, Barb. You're in lockdown again, love, I know. Only a short and sharp, quick one. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Anyway, so cool. Let's get started. So the base of these cards is fundamentally the same as each other. So I'm only actually going to make one base, and then I'll make the 2 tops to go on it, the 2 decorated panels that go on the front. So I'm just going to make the one. So it's basically, as you can see here, fundamentally the same. It's called a center, I've seen it called a center panel easel card, basically, because you've got a central panel, and obviously it's an easel because it sits up there like that with its little easel foot, which is just lovely. Okay, so let's get started. As I say, I'm going to do the Poinsettia Petals one first, place or whatever it was called, just because that's the one that you can make straight away. Okay, so the card base that we want, I'm sorry, I've got it here when I probably should have put it in the other one. I didn't know which one I was going to do first. So we've got my normal sized card base, which is a 8 1/4 by 5 3/4 card base, and it's scored in the middle. So it starts life just like any old normal card. Then you have to grab your trimmer. You grab your trimmer, and hopefully I can get that in there so you can see. And you pick whichever side's going to be the front, doesn't matter too much. And you cut from the edge to the score line at 1.5 inches from each end. So just from the cut from the edge to the score line at 1.5 inches. And you do that to the center, and you do that on both sides. Okay, so you end up with this like 3, looks like somebody with little arms in there with your card. Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to do. Oh, and also, before we put the trimmer away, this center panel, which is the larger, the widest, you basically, again, using your trimmer or your scorer, 1.5 inches from the edge, you just score yourself a little fold there. And that's the bit that's going to hinge onto your middle panel and form the easel there. Okay, so you've got your normal card base, 1.5 inches from both ends from the edge to the score, and then in this center one, 1.5 inches from the edge. Just give yourself a little score there. Okay, so now we can get rid of our trimmer, which is going to crash to the floor. But anyway, it always does. That should be my theme, actually. Trimmers crashing to the floor during videos. Okay, so what we're going to do is just finish this base. I'm going to grab these two little side panels and just glue them down with some glue that works. Got some others coming on. Thanks, guys. Nice to see you all. We've got Libby. Morning, Libby. And Lynn and Donna. Good morning. And Maureen. Hello, my dear Maureen. How are you? Nice to see you. Glad your catalogue finally arrived. I was on the verge of popping it in the mail for you just so you'd have one. Anyway, it's all good. I think it might have been held up with Sydney's lockdown and stuff. So you do live in lovely, warm, far north Queensland, I suppose. Okay, so we're just gluing down these little side panels, which probably seems as a bit of a waste, but it does give us that nice little edge there in the centre. In here, yeah. Okay, so they should just line up with the other edges of your card, and then you're right. So to stick with the green gold theme, I've picked a couple of panels of the beautiful Expressions in Ink Designer Series paper, and they are just cut 1/8 of an inch smaller than the side panels. So they're basically 4 inches long and 1 3/8 inch wide. And we're just going to glue those down as well. That one looks a little bit longer than that one. It is a tiny touch. No, I won't bother. It's such a small amount. Sometimes assume that our 12 by 12 inch Designer Series paper is actually 12 by 12 inch. So you think it's going to go naturally into 3 times 4, but it's actually 12 point something. So it's always that little point something on the last bit that gets me. And that's that little point something that's made this one a little bit long. Don't know what the point something is, if someone's actually ever measured it. I know it's 30.5 centimetres. But anyway, okay, so that is basically the card base for these. And now you can probably interchange is what we're going to do. We're going to interchange the two tops, the two decorated bits for here. So okay, so that's our card base. And as I say, that little throwback, that little scored part that you've done there is going to sit on the back of our decorated panel. As you can see back there, it sits back here. Okay, but we can do our 2 decorated panels now and nobody will ever know. Okay, so we're going to do our Poinsettia one first with the current Poinsettia dies, and I think they're just called plain old Poinsettia dies. Yes, they are. Okay, so I have created myself a decorative layer using the Ornate Layers dies. I don't use this one very often, mostly because I am exceptionally impatient and I find all these little pieces really frustrating. I don't know about you guys. So if you can see it, if you ever see it come out in a video like today, you know that I have thought about it and there is no other choice or no other option that I could find. I do really find, and I never use it for classes. The thought of cutting 20 odd of these just leaves me particularly cold. And saying that is why this one, the one with the Merriest frames and the embossing folder, is such a breath of fresh air. I would contemplate doing a class with that because it just comes out so easy. It's just one pass and you've done the lot, which is great. So see, I'm going to leave that. Whatever is in there was meant to be there, so I'll get rid of that. Yeah, not my favourite one. I love the result. If somebody would cut them for me, I'd love that. But yes, no, not something I'd use a lot. What's Jan saying? It's snowing in Canberra. Oh, okay. Well, it's a good day to stay inside and craft with those tags. Jen shared some pictures this morning of the, what are they? Something tags, not terrific tags. Anyway, wonderful little tag cards that people have done. I'm definitely going to get it out and have a little bit of a look at it this morning myself. Okay, so I have that ornate layers there, which is what I'm going to form the basis of my decorating. I also have a stitched rectangle from the stitched rectangle dies, and that one fits pretty much perfectly like it was meant to be there. Oh, I wonder, maybe it was. Fits pretty much perfectly in that ornate layer there, and that looks quite small when I'm looking at the video. I might turn my light off. I can see the shadow of my head. Just bear with me for a minute. That's better. The system will take a couple of minutes to adjust to the light, but you won't see the shadow on my head. That ornate layer rectangle it's 4 3/4 long and just over 3 inches wide, so it is a little bit bigger than the screen's actually showing. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is grab my white rectangle. I'm just going to glue that straight to the ornate layer, trying to get it in the middle of all those pretty dots. I do like it, as I say, but I don't like cutting it. Might have to copyright the if somebody's probably already got it, the lazy crafter or something like that. That's probably fits me quite well. Okay, so now using the dies, and I'll show you the dies. As I say, they are currently available in the current catalogue. These are the Poinsettia dies, and there's lots of good stuff in there. If you haven't seen it, it's one of my favourites. It has the various layers of the poinsettia, so you can go really, really big. That's quite large. As you can see, it's a size up again from the one that I've actually used on the card. There's a large one, and the good thing about them is that you pop this little part inside. You've got to get the right configuration, which is always the thing that slows me down. Anyway, you pop this in through your die cutting machine like that, and it actually cuts and embosses. It's sort of like the preview or the predecessor of these hybrid embossing folders. You actually pop them through like that, and it cuts and embosses those veins in the leaves at the same time. So it's really, really quite good, and I've used it a lot, as you guys probably know. So you've got the big one, you've got a middle-sized one, you've got a small baby one, and you've got a teeny weeny tiny one there. And you've just got to make a 4-layered poinsettia out of that. And it's got these leaves as well, and the leaves also have the little second part that you can pop in there and put veins in the leaves as well. Anyway, very, 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 very handy die set. Not even if you don't get the stamp set, the dies on their own are very good for making the poinsettias, which I've been trying to get use of all year round, but they are definitely coming into their own now. Everyone's thinking about Christmas in July and looking ahead to their Christmas cards. Anyway, so what I have made is I'm going to just use this is the smallest poinsettia, so the smallest of the 3 sizes. So I've just cut 2 of those, and I've cut those in cherry cobbler, and I don't know if you can see, but it gives it the lovely little veins when you put the vein die through. So I've cut 2 of those, and I'm just going to glue them together slightly offset so they look like a complete flower there. Oh, and I usually do, you guys probably have watched me enough, I give them a little bit of a fold just with my thumb and 2 fingers, just to give them a little bit of 3D goodness, just like that. Okay, so a tiny bit of glue, if that's entirely possible this morning, in there, and put those overlapping so that they look very good. Now I'm going to bring in this little guy here just to form the centre of the poinsettia, or the smaller one, just to give it that bit more of a natural look. Here we are. So we've got, and I've made 2 of those, so they're both there like that. So basically, as I say, using the smallest of the poinsettias, I've cut 2 each, so 4 altogether, and then 2 of the tiny, tiny one, just to give it that sort of fill it in a little bit. Now, in the centre of those, it's been the one thing I could never work out with this die, is what to put in the centre. It sort of always sort of worried me. I didn't want to use lots and lots and lots of rhinestones or gems or anything because that's quite expensive. And maybe I'm the clumsy, inky, lazy, tight crafter as well. That's not getting to be a very good name at all. So what I thought I would do, this little spray of sort of buds here is also from the die set. And the other day I was just looking at them and I realised that these little buds on the end are actually the perfect size just to sit in the middle of the poinsettia. So I've done a spare one in gold, and I'm just going to cut off just with a sort of rounded edge. I'm going to cut off one of those for each of my little poinsettias, and it's not going to cost me the earth, and it's just the right size. So yeah, that was a tip courtesy of me. So I'll just cut those off, and you've got them just perfect for inside. There we are. Yeah, so anyway, that's my money saving out of the way for the day. And if you're like me, you have lots of tiny little bits of gold in your scraps box because you just never want to throw them away. I'm always guarding them. So you never know when you're going to use that little tiny leftover bit. And just pop those in there with some glue. My husband would laugh if he heard me say that, because he's usually sort of refuses to throw anything away in the garage or out in the garden because you'll never know when you're going to use that. And I've just said it about my crafting. He's just come in from outside. He probably heard me. Okay, so there we've got our two little poinsettias for the front of our card. So what we're going to do now is bring this little panel back in. I'm going to position our poinsettias, and I might actually stamp the sentiment first, and then I'll know where I'm going to build my sentiments around. So I'm going to use the Poinsettia Petals stamp set, which is the one that comes with the dies, or the bundle. It used to be a bundle. You have to buy them separately now. I'm going to say I want something a fairly large sentiment to sort of take pride of place in the front of this. So I'm going to use May Magic and Wonder Bloom This Holiday. And I'm going to bring in my shaded spruce ink. Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you that ornate layer and the card base are in shaded spruce. Apologies, I should have said that. And the flowers are in cherry cobbler. I think I said that part. Okay, so let's bring that in. I'm going to pop it towards the right, or my right top corner, and then I'll sort of decorate around it. Here we are. It's a bit dirty. I mustn't have cleaned that one off properly. And I used it yesterday. It's got some fluff on there. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so we've got our little sentiment there. So now I'll bring these flowers in and I'll know where not to go. So I sort of like to bring them in so that they sort of, the petals sort of curve in and around the sentiment. You can get them as close as you possibly can without going over. There we are. So I'm going to pop them there, just like that, just with some glue. Just going to put the glue in the centre, not all the way around, mostly because I want to bring the leaves in and around as well. I've cut some leaves there and some gold. There we are. Okay, so as I say, I've cut some leaves. So this is also from the poinsettia dies. I've got these leaves. I don't think they're poinsettia leaves, to be honest, because poinsettia leaves just look like poinsettia petals, but just a different colour. I think they would be holly. Anyone who can confirm that, where holly grows? We don't actually have it naturally in Tasmania. I don't know about the rest of Australia. It might have been imported to some places. Okay, so I'm just going to give them a tiny bit of a bend as well. Just pop some glue along the back vein there, and I'm going to bring those in and around as well. So there, just following my original design there. I didn't like where I'd put the leaves on that one, so I'm sort of changing it slightly. There we are. Now, a hint for decorating this: when you've got it on your card, it's going to sit like that, flat, for your envelope. So just make sure you don't go too far along over the sides and the top and the bottom with your decorations, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get them into your envelope. So see, with this one, I've got it right to the edge. That was just pure luck there. So that's as far as you would go with the decoration in that one. Okay, so we'll keep going with these leaves. Yes, they are holly leaves. Thank you, Teresa. And keep putting these little guys on. And I suppose they might be berries. No, not sure what they're supposed to be, but they're very handy. Again, I'm going to bring this in so I don't go too far up the top with this last leaf. There we are. Okay, so there's the leaves on. I think that's really nice. It's probably nice. You could just put that on the front of a card and you'd be totally, people would be totally blown away, I reckon. There we go. Okay, but we need some bling. So I've got those little, this is also from the Poinsettia dies. Now I find them a little bit long, so I always just trim off the edge. Don't worry, I won't waste those. Pop some glue on. And I'm going to bring those in as well. No, I don't think I've trimmed that enough. It's not going to go in. The trial and error there. And remembering, I don't want to bring it too far up the top. There we are. It's just the same distance out there as the leaf. That's okay. And these little end bits, I'll bring them in as well. Waste not, want not, especially with gold foil. Okay, sorry, I've gone all quiet while I concentrate on this. I hope everyone's having a great weekend so far, or week. No, if you remember last week we went to some open homes last week. We saw a couple of good houses for my kids who were looking to buy a house, my eldest and his partner. No houses this week, so I'm free to do crafting. Well, not that I had to go with them, but it was nice. So no houses in their price range with open homes this week. Unfortunately, their price range isn't. It's at the, the lower end of the market, and there's just so much competition. Lots of young couples trying to get into the market at the moment. Okay, so there we are. That's our decorated front there. Okay, so I think that's really, really, really sweet. Oh, one more thing. I had one extra little red flower. I'm just going to pop that down here just to fill this empty gap down at the bottom here. Just there. Okay. There we go. That balances it out a little bit, I think. So there we are. So that's the top of our poinsettia one, our poinsettia version of the card. So as I say, with the currant products. So what you would do now, and I'm not going to actually pop this one on because I'm going to leave it for the new product one, is you would basically just, if you've got a bit of glue there, you would basically just pop some glue, and which we'll do for when I do the next one, pop some glue on that central panel there that's pointing upwards, then position your card so that it's central. Made that sticks up a little bit far, I'll have to fix that later, and glue that onto there. And then we need to do a little footrest so that it doesn't flip forward. But as I say, I'm going to do that with the second card, and leave that one since it's exactly the same base. Okay, cool. All right, so that's the original one. Hopefully you like that. I think it's actually, you know, I love that poinsettia dies. So yeah, I think that's my favourite of the two, if I had to be completely honest, which I am always completely honest. Okay, but let's do this second one because I do love this as well. And as I say, it's a new product, and I absolutely adore the embossing folder and dies. Okay, so basically, again, we're going to use the same card base that we've just used, that we made first of all with our expressions in ink paper. But this time we're going to use that embossing folder. So I've cut a couple of detail from the dies. So I'll show you the die that I've cut. Merriest frames, here we go. Comes with a fair few little bits and bobs, but the main event is this one here, with what I've used, and this is the one that just cuts out the plain without embossing. That one there is cut out in shaded spruce, this base here. Cool, just like that. Okay, there is this one, which is the one that actually snaps into the embossing folder to give you this one that I showed you first of all, which I haven't actually used in any cards yet, but that's just so handy. Just one pass and you get that little frame with all the embossing. What I'm going to do though is bring in my blank, the detailed blank that I've done with this one, and I'm going to pop it through the embossing folder through my machine, and I'll show you what a difference it makes. So basically it goes in as just a silhouette almost. You pop it, line it up with the rest. You've got to sort of line up the right bits with the right bits. Okay, so that's the way it goes there. So it's exactly the same image. So you just got to line it up with it. What have I got in the embossing, in my cut and emboss? I had to play with that a little bit. What have I got here? Okay, forgive the batter and possibility of going out of focus. I'm going to pop that through there. Find my embossing plate. Make sure that stayed lined up. Pop it through there, and it becomes something very special. Oh, bang. Thanks, love. Hubby just closed the craft room door because he's making a coffee. Okay, so I'll sit down again. So there we have it. It turns it and adds all those little cute little veins and leaves, and yeah, turns it into something very, very special, which is there. So it's very much worth it. What I'm going to do though is use the second blank that I cut. I'm not going to emboss the second one. I'm just going to reinforce, because we're making an easel card out of it and these little bits are quite delicate. I'm just going to reinforce the first one that I have embossed by sticking this one on the back. So basically exactly overlaying it and gluing them together so that we just get a little bit more strength, since it's going to have to act as an easel for our easel card. So I'm just going to put glue on most of these little extremities here. And it's just so it doesn't sort of crumple under its own weight so badly. To bring that in, because you do weaken your cardboard, your cardstock, popping it through the embossing machine too. So it just needs that little bit of support. for this particular card. You wouldn't need it if you were just making a normal card. Obviously, you wouldn't need to pop it through. I'm just going to line them up, those little leaves on the outside. Just press them down with the glue. The unit I'm in has open house. Oh dear. Yes, the unit. Yeah, I was thinking of you, Margie. I was hoping desperately they'd change their mind. Hopefully somebody will buy it and want a wonderful tenant to stay in it. And you'll be able to get to stay there, because I remember you were so happy when you found it. I would hate to think you'd have to go through all that again. Okay, so we've got our reinforced little easel there. So that's going to stand up to the punishment of being an easel card. Okay, so let's get with the fun bit. Well, it's all fun. Okay, so in the dies, in this Merriest Frames dies, they've got a little stitch rectangle that, you lo and behold, fits perfectly in the middle of that frame. So you don't have to go, searching around for another rectangle that fits. So I'm just going to pop that straight on there. And then we've got ourselves a wonderful stage for decorate. Oh, that moved under my fingers. We can set the stage for what's about to happen with our decorating. Okay, so I'm going to pop the sentiment on first again, like I did with the first one. A joyful Christmas to you and yours, I think fits pretty nicely, and it's sort of nice. Joyful, and you can tell it's got a slightly tinge of green, so that's the one I used before. Okay, so I'm going to do it, as I say, do it in shaded spruce. And again, towards the top right-hand corner, so we can decorate around the left. There we are. And that's a lovely sharp stamp, that one. That's really dark and deep. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we're going to use, and I think they are supposed to be fairly stylised poinsettias in the actual stamp set. So on white cardstock, I'm going to just basically stamp these, and I'm going to stamp them in Cherry Cobbler, which is the colour that I used on my poinsettias before. And I've got them stamped up already, blocked up, I mean. Okay, so I had a spare piece of cardstock too. Where would that go? Ah, there it is. Okay, so going to, since it is a photopolymer stamp, I'm going to bring in a foam mat or a silicone mat, whichever you use, just to make you get the nice coverage. And I'll just show you these layers. So it's obviously got a big one there, which is for the outside. For the largest layer, got a smaller one for the inside. There we are. I think my Cherry Cobbler needs re-inking from heavy use last year. So that's the two segments of the flower. Then I'm going to use this. Now, I've changed my mind. It's amazing you can change your mind. I used from the die set these gold centres here. I don't know if you can see them. I decided they were a bit gaudy. And as much as I generally like gaudy, I decided I didn't want to go gaudy with the second one. So I have got my Daffodil Delight, and there's this tiny little sort of, obviously meant to be a cluster of the centre for the centre of the flower. So I'm going to use Daffodil Delight, and that's probably a little bit more like an actual poinsettia centre than the gold. And they also have a cute little cluster, and I reckon these are actually supposed to be holly berries. They've got that as well, so I've done a couple of those also. Right, so what I need to do is, because I want 3 of these, I need to cut these out with the dies, which means bringing back the, I might leave the monster out actually. I'll use the little one. Where's the little one? Over here, past my rubbish bin. You move over there, rubbish bin. I'll bring in my baby. Hello, baby. Okay, so nice little dies. So I can use my smaller dies. It's a bit of mess off over here now. So let's pop that away. We'll bring in the dies. So there's a one, that one, and that one. There. And you have to sort of work out what orientation they go. And once you've picked it, you usually can pick it again pretty easy. That's that one. And that's that one. Now this one was a bit trickier. It's got a little lumpy one. It's that one there. There we are. Okay, so I'll just die cut those. Don't move on me, guys. You have. I need to bring in some washi tape or something. That's all right. I think it'll be right. Yeah, come on. It's because you're all watching me. You know how you get nervous when typing or something that you do a million times a day. I am going to have to get some tape. Excuse me, I'm going to have to stand up and find where I've put my tape if I can. Or somebody's moved it on me. I'm going to stand up. It's easier to get these in place when I'm standing up. Apologies for that. I have done 2 flowers already, so you can rest assured you don't have to watch me struggle with this 3 times. It's just the once. It's very difficult from a sitting position. Oh, you little blighter. I'm just going to go for it. Oh, no, I can't. Oh, gosh. Go and make yourselves a cup of tea or something, guys. I'm very, very sorry about this, and I can't see my tape anywhere to put them in place. As a last resort, I may go off and use my magnetic plate on my big one over at my left-hand side. Not a very good advertisement this morning, am I? Ah, gotcha. Some days you're all thumbs and you should probably have stayed in bed. It might have been that today. Okay, so that's good. We've got those. I'll pop those over to the side so I don't lose them. Okay, now I can sit down again. Okay, so I've got my 2 points of poinsettia. Apologies for that. That was like painful watching that. Okay, so I'm going to glue those together. Just slightly offset again, like we did with our original one. Tiny little bit of glue in the bottom, in the middle, and I'll pop those little centers in there. And that looks a little bit more natural than the garish gold that I had in the other one. Okay, so I've made, as I say, thankfully, so you don't have to bear witness to that again, I've made 3 of those already. Okay, so also in the stamps, in the dies, they've got some leaves. It's very similar to the holly leaves that we have with the original poinsettia dies. And I've done those in gold. Now, I've done it slightly different in this one as well. Obviously, second time round, you think twice about things, or you improve. I thought on my original card they just looked a bit blocky, a bit uninteresting, just like lumps of gold. Not that lumps of gold would be uninteresting. No, don't tell me wrong. I wouldn't knock them back. But what I've done is I actually cut them and then I ran them through an embossing folder that had sort of leafy parts, and I just sort of positioned them where the embossing folder had veins, leafy veins, and I know they're not exact, but they just add a little bit more interest and detail to that gold, which I thought was probably a little bit nicer. So I've made a fair few of those. I don't know if I'll use them all. And I've got a small rectangle in white, which I'm going to use as the doorstop on my easel card, and a couple of those little berries that we talked about as well, little holly berries. Okay, so let's start decorating. So I've totally lost it with that emboss, trying to get that through the cut and emboss. Okay, so we're going to arrange our flowers like we did with the first card, arrange our flowers around our sentiment. These are a little bit smaller, so you can actually get 3 of them on there, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have them like this, as I say, so they come in and around the sentiment, just like that. I'm going to pop that third one on a dimensional as well, just to give it a little bit of extra interest. So we'll glue those on just in the center again, bringing it in and around our joyful Christmas, and sticking to my finger. Okay. Just like that. Don't want to cover over too much of our sentiment. And grab a dimensional. Pop it on the back of this third one. And just position that off to the side. Just like that. So it's a different look. It's more stylized. It's not as classic as our original poinsettias, but it's different. It's just a little bit more modern looking, I think. Okay, so now we've got our leaves. I'm going to pop some glue on those and just bring them in. Copying my first one, I was quite happy with that positioning of those. So I've got some big ones and some little ones and some teeny weeny ones, so I'll just bring those all in and around. Don't want to cover over our frame too much, but I do want to complete that sort of framed look by bringing something in and over here. One of our big leaves will come over here. And then another one up and over here. So it looks like our sentiment is completely sort of encased, which is really nice. It's just sort of peeking out around our decorations. I'll put another couple of leaves in. Do we want another one or two? I don't want it to go too mad, you know. It's just sometimes too much gold is exactly that, too much gold. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. I might leave it at that, I think. There we are. Yeah, and it definitely did add a little bit of interest to those leaves with that sort of veiny appeal. They just look a little bit more unblocky. So I've got these 2 little holly leaves as well, and I thought I'd just accent them, or use them as a bit of a accent on the corners. Now the other one I've got down here, I don't think I need it because that leaf comes a little bit further, so I might just leave it at 1 holly leaf, I reckon. Might use the other one on the little footprint. Okay, so that is the base of that one, or the easel of that one done. So this is the one I'm actually going to put on our card base. So I'll bring that back in. So as I say, this one or this one, from now on the treatment would be basically the same, just finishing off the card with the decorated panel. So I'm going to leave that one. I'll use that one later. I might actually just pop that one onto a normal card. I think it's so pretty. So if you get that for a Christmas card, you'll know I've made it just for you. So I'm going to pop some glue just on this little central, from the score to the end. Bring in our decorated panel and position it so it's exactly in the middle of our card base. So make sure nothing goes over the edges. Sort of lined up with the middle, top and bottom. That's about right. firm that down, and that will stick just where we want it to make our easel, like that. Okay, lovely. And the last thing we need to do is bring in our little easels. Always need to have a little foot stop, just so it doesn't fall forward. And this one I'm going to do it slightly different. In the original one I just had a little leaf there, and it sort of just stuck up under that, which is good. I could probably get away with that again, but I actually thought when I did the second one for the poinsettias, I quite liked the idea of another little sentiment on the bottom there. So I'm going to do that for this one. So work out what sentiment we want. Is there one in the Merriest Moments that will fit? Season's Greetings might fit on that. Let's have a little look. Oh, it might be too long. Yes, I think it's going to be too long unless we do it with masking. Yeah, just slightly too long. Although I've just realised that there's a cute little joy there, just a plain joy, which I think is quite cute. Could just pop a little joy there. Look, if you've got a smaller Merry Christmas, I think even the one from the Poinsettia Petals is too long for that particular sentiment box. So what I thought, I could do joy there, and then I can bring in our little spare berries and gold leaves there. What about that? And pop those off to the side. Since we've got them, we could go like that. Just making it up on as I go at the moment, but yeah, that's what I'll do. So we'll bring in a block, and again I'm going to put it in green. It feels like it should be in red, but I'm going to do it, keep consistent and do it in shaded spruce. And off to the right, left hand side, so I can fit it in around my little berries. There we are. That's cute. And I'll glue the berries and the leaf in place next to it. Don't want to waste things, especially gold. Yeah. That's cute. Okay, what do you think of that? That's going to be our little base, our little foot stop for our card. So what you need to do now is grab some dimensionals again, some foam squares, pop them on the back. So you need the height with this one so that it forms that little foot stop. And if you want to be extra sure, you could double up on your dimensionals. You could put dimensional on dimensional, get that dimensional build up that we talk about. Yeah. Now we pop that where we want. We sort of work out how far back you want your card to sit and position that so it doesn't flip forward. There we are. Okay, so that'll catch with the bottom of that frame, which is what I talked about, keeping it sort of stronger with the double layers. That little frame will stop there so the card doesn't fall forward like that. And that's the finished item there. That's really good. It's quite busy, but busy in a good way, I think. Whereas this one, you'd probably think is a little bit more sophisticated and underspoken. Yeah, underspoken, is that the word? When you're under, yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, sort of less in your face almost, but still pretty up there. But this is the one with the new products. Okay, so there's my two cards for today. As I said, the one on my right is the one using current products, so you could make that basically today if you had those ones at home. If you're a demonstrator, you obviously could have already bought these ones from the upcoming catalogue. If you're a customer, you can buy them from the 3rd of August. So I'd be happy to help you if you wanted to place an order. But both of them, I think, are beautiful, and they both have different accents, different design, but with the same sort of really, really nice sort of appeal. But I think I actually like the new products for this particular one very, very, very much. Okay, well, thanks for joining me today, guys. I'm sorry about that slight delay with trying to get my cutter to cut. It doesn't usually play up like that. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for staying with me all the way through. Thanks for your lovely comments. If there's any questions or anything in the comments, I'll come back to them once I've finished uploading the video, so stay with me. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next week. Okay, thanks, guys.